Hello, this is roving reporter Frank Pallo. I'm here with Patrick Charnley, who is visiting Falmouth today to talk about his book, This My Second Life. Welcome, Patrick, to Falmouth.
Thank you very much, Frank. It's great to be here.
Can you tell us a little bit about the book?
Yes, certainly. So the book ultimately came out of a big life event that I had, which was having a cardiac arrest and sustaining a brain injury. I was no longer able to work, and in the time of my recovery, I began to write, and really I was trying to recreate a feeling that I had after I came out of the coma after my cardiac arrest. I'd had some hallucinations which were extremely comforting, including one where I was being looked after in an Irish hospital by a group of young nurses who was so kind, and they made me feel completely safe. And when I came home, I very much wanted to hold on to that feeling, and I began to write, not necessarily even with a novel in mind, but I just wanted to record the feeling, but not just to write what it was. I wanted to create an environment and some characters who could encapsulate that for me and sort of create a story on the back of that would recreate the feeling of calm and the sensation of a sanctuary, which in time I wanted readers to experience as well. So I set it in Cornwall, which is a place I completely love, always have loved, have spent a great deal of time here and used to live here indeed. And I set it on a farm just outside St Ives. The idea being that the environment itself was so calming with the animals, with nature, and the perfect place really to recover.
Well, I grew up on a farm and it did ring really true to me. What experience did you have of farming and agriculture before writing this?
Well, I've never lived on a farm, but I've always absolutely loved farms and loved the countryside. So as a family, we used to spend holidays on farms. You'd stay on a farm. I love everything about the farm, particularly sort of in the older days. The kind of the routines around the milking, the churning, the rhythm of nature that you're just so close to in a way that you're not so much in the city.
And it's definitely clear in the book that comes through. There's a certain timeless sort of quality to it, and a real beauty and joy in the writing.
Thank you. I didn't want to peg the book to a particular time. I think it's a story for any age, really. It's a story about good versus bad as well. There is a threatening neighbour, a neighbouring farmer who, in fact, has a much more nefarious business than farming, and what comes through that is a story of goodness through the characters on the farm, Jago and his uncle Jacob, who is the most decent person you could possibly come across. And then this evil person, really, Bill Sligo, who threatens them and threatens the peace. And in a way, it's a metaphor for the world that we live in, where there is quite a lot of bad stuff happening, but there are thoroughly decent people at the same time. And I'm happy to say in this book that good does ultimately overcome.
So you have your health issues, and you did this maybe as a form of recovery, as therapy. What was the process of writing? Were you able to get momentum, or was it very much on an ad hoc basis?
It was on an ad hoc basis. I have a lot of cognitive problems from my brain injury, and a lot of memory problems and problems with how quickly I think. And I get very, very, very fatigued. So I couldn't write much. I wrote little bits by hand every few days. I didn't have any deadlines or anything like that. It was very much just a process of doing it when I felt like doing it and enjoying doing it. And over time, it added up. It added up to the book that it is.
I know that people often say a book's a collaborative experience with publishers and editors, and how did that work for you?
I think it's the collaboration comes later. I wrote the book entirely on my own, without really sharing it with anybody. I just had this world that I wanted to live in on my own. My world had changed completely, and I had this new world in my head and on the page that I could retreat to. And then, of course, it came to the point where I finished the book. And at first, I didn't even want to try to publish it. It felt like too much of a step back into the world. So I left it for a while, and then I did try to publish it. And then, of course, the whole process starts, and you start working with the wonderful people at the publisher and my agent, who bring their own skills to it. And I'm very lucky to work with people who are so good at what they do, and they really elevated the book.
Are you continuing to write? Is it something you're writing for yourself, or are you writing another book?
I am continuing to write. I've started another novel, which again, I want it just to be about things that I care about and that I think are important in the world, but without putting pressure on myself, because I cannot live in the way that I used to live. So I want it to be a pressure-free process where I'm just writing for the sake of enjoying it and for the sake of the writing itself.
What's the pressure in coming to Falmouth and speaking to readers as you are doing with this trip down to the cafe above the bookshop?
Well, it's a kind of big thing for me to do this. We've had a long journey coming down here. And it will be a big thing to sit in front of people and talk about the book. It will have a health consequence for me, but I'm very happy to be here. And the idea that people are actually coming to listen to the book it's a real privilege. So I'm excited about it.
I certainly appreciate you taking the time out to speak to me. It's a privilege to speak to you, having read the book and enjoyed it so much. Like you say, it was beautiful, warm. And I found it very comforting when I was reading it, and I would certainly recommend people check it out. If anybody is looking for a copy of the book, they could get it at the Falmouth bookseller in town, or I'm sure that people could get it in all independent bookshops and online. So yeah, thank you very much, Patrick, for taking the time to speak to us.
Thank you, Frank.